staff on the call today. We have Nina Rinaldi, Chamber President Vicki Clark, and I believe we have Member Services Manager Rachel Ertl on the call today. So looking forward to it. Just a couple little housekeeping things. Everyone will be on mute so that we can give our full attention to our great speaker today. If you do have a question, please type it into the chat box, and we will be reading them, most of them towards the end of the presentation, but we may work into a couple as we go along. So without further ado, I want to welcome and introduce Michael Scharaga from Arista Enterprises, and I believe also Tina D'Antonio is on the call today too of Arista Enterprises. So with all that being said, we're looking forward to this great presentation, and Michael, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, John. I want to thank the Cape May County Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring us, and we really appreciate it and look forward to our time together. You know, Arista Enterprises ourselves, we're a IT technology company, and you know, we have a lot of experience not only in security but a lot of other areas within IT. So today, what we wanted to focus in is the you know, looking at cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity has gotten a lot more complex because now we're working from home. We're a little bit removed from what our normal offices are, and now our home offices are an extension of our offices. So security is like, you know, like the four quadrants that we look up here. One is that we're working remote. We're always learning. We'll want to be in the know, and we're always being watchful, and that's the looking out for different potential cybersecurity risk and vulnerabilities that we might have. So the next thing we want to kind of talk about is the knowing part. So this part of it is pretty self-evident with the COVID-19. We're now all working from home, which is awesome, and we see that in all phases of our life. You know, we see on TV with their folks there working from the home. We also see it from the you know, ourselves working from home. So there's a big increase in working from home. So now this is the important part. Knowledge is power. Cybersecurity, we have to be, as small and medium businesses, we have to be more ever vigilant because we are now pushing our boundaries to the home front. And that is, you know, first of all, protecting your sensitive data. That's highly critical because that could be your customer information. It could be your business information. So that is very, very important. Your computer systems, how well they're protected. The networks that we are all talking through to get to this meeting today, how well are they protected? Software applications that you're using, whether they're web-based applications or if they're desktop applications, are all vulnerable to cyber attacks. So cyber training is a way to provide us knowledge and allow us to be more vigilant on the things that we're doing. So that way we can be more vigilant on when we notice a hole or a breach and what we do with those things. This is an important part, and we kind of were talking about this before the meeting actually started. Cybersecurity today is not a single person. Like when I first started out in the business, you know, we talked about security. It was basically one person could do everything. But today it's a lot more complex than that because it involves our ability to train across a whole different level of the organizations, whether you're small or medium. The same thing applies to those as well as a large company. And what we're showing here is that is the ability for how you can be able to take advantage of cybersecurity, you know, learning, and not necessarily are you going to have all these areas that you're going to have as a small medium business, and that might be the outside companies that you bring in to help you, you know, work through the planning of that process. But what we kind of focus in is this part here in the home business space, which is there everyone else, because there we need to be able to show you as a small company how to protect yourselves. And then Some companies go out and they have other people that are involved in these other areas to help them manage their cyber security posture. So this is a very important one, and phishing is one of these common cybersecurity attacks, and you can get these through a lot of different things. But a good thing that one of the things I want to share, I don't know if you're all familiar with Shark Tank, but Barbara Cochran is one of those Shark Tanks, and she actually her group got hit with a phishing email, which they actually exploited her team, and she had, there was a loss of a couple $100,000 that she lost because of phishing. So even a shark also became shark bait, in regards to phishing. No pun intended. It was just my little humor there. So, but the key about it is that phishing is one of these things that can really, really affect anyone, and it's so broad base in phishing attacks that it not only impacts small medium businesses, it also impacts people that are specifically that are at home, that are not in a business, from all ages. Here's another area that's really important as we continue to look at it, is that clicking on downloading files and stuff like that we see. So it's very important that if you're not sure of the source, then you need to be aware that clicking on something, that you download something, will actually can open you up to cyber attacks. Okay, because it can happen from many different ways. And realistically, it's these types of attacks are pretty prevalent, because that's how they hackers establish a beachhead on your infected machines, and from there, all of a sudden, they can turn that into affecting other machines, and it kind of is like a spider web. It just keeps permeating out, so that's very important. And as we all are accused of it, that, hey, we go click on this, we're on a website, and all of a sudden we see this ad that pops up, and oh, it looks good, I like this, and it's just basically a false ad that leads to the ability to open your machine up to be able to breach it. So, so it comes from all different areas. Malware is another thing, and I can tell you, malware and ransomware are a huge thing here, and they cripple companies in a major way. Okay, and I can tell you this because I actually had customers where they basically, and I'm talking, city governments, that actually got hit with ransomware, and basically they had to pay to get their access to their data. In some cases, hit big time. And I can tell you an example of this. All of a sudden, and my dad was actually a victim of this. All of a sudden he calls me up. He goes, oh, something came up on my computer and it said I have a Microsoft issue. Please call this number. And, and it looked official. It looked like it came from like a Microsoft. And he thought truly it was a Microsoft issue going on his laptop, because he had a lot of the Microsoft products. And I told him, Dad, do not touch anything. You need to cancel that thing, because what will happen is they're going to call up and all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, remote support. And then you click on this file, you download it, and all of a sudden they get into your machine and they're going to lock you out. Okay. So ransomware is a huge thing out there, and it comes in many, many different ways. And these are just like some areas that you can see, like Trojan horses. Remote access is a key thing, like I was telling you about, being able to get in. So it comes from many, many different ways. And sometimes they're dropping in what we call a key logger, a little app that runs in the background. You don't even know it's there. And sometimes virus protection doesn't always catch it. And all of a sudden they're capturing your keystrokes to credit card information, a lot of things that you access. So, as we talked about, this is the kiss of death here, ransomware. And its effects, like I said, it crosses all boundaries, but specifically it can cripple businesses. small, medium, and we don't necessarily have all the resources financially to get our data back, or they can hold us ransom to it, exactly what the word means. And I can tell you, have customers that have been victims of it. And, you know, it's not an easy thing to swallow when you don't have access to your data anymore, and trying to recreate that, because this permeates into not only being protecting yourself as a small business, but how do I get access to my data? If I don't decide to pay, do I have a backup? Can I restore my data points? Can I get back to the things I need? And not having a good recovery plan for that, just in case, whether it's a ransomware issue, is something that you have to think about. And this goes back to, you know, all vendors, or even Zoom has been, you probably heard about people basically coming in and what they call Zoom bomb. You know, it's like a photo bomb, but all of a sudden you have this person showing up on your Zoom meetings because they found ways to get around the, you know, getting into the meetings. And WebEx and Microsoft are all susceptible to these different things. It's always a cat and mouse game of, you know, being able to stay ahead. You fix this, and the hackers are always trying to find other ways to get in. So it's always, you have to start being more vigilant to how things are and what you're responding to. So key about it is, and this goes back to it, what can we do as a business, okay? And there's a lot of things. One is, you know, understanding how we protect our data, ways to back up our data and our accesses, and assessing how we're storing all this information. And it's not that you have to spend billions of dollars. Even small companies can, you know, can find ways to protect their data and not, you know, hit the pocketbook. You know, that's the important thing. It's not this huge expensive thing that you have to share a big burden of cost. There's ways to do it in a very very efficient way from a cost perspective. The other part about it, and this is the easiest part of them all, is train and educate. If you understand knowledge is power, and that's what we've been kind of, you know, walking through this deck a little bit, but it is, if we can train and educate and basically have that feedback loop on how well your education is, that goes a long way in securing and protecting your data, which ties to your revenue stream. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, you know, our financial and our data that our customers. And as we talked about, this is an important part. Cybersecurity is a multifaceted thing. It's not like one person, like, you know, that you can just, oh, you're going to understand all my cybersecururity. It's basically a bigger, like a village to be able to look at your cybersecurity. And that goes in like you know, first creating a baseline, which is typically done through an audit, you know, a very simple audit to see what you're doing. We work on, all right, where are the holes? You know, let's remediate that. And then there's a process of, you know, how do we monitor those things? And then the training, because here's the thing about it. You are the biggest, weakest link to cybersecurity. And if you don't do the training, then all the work you've done on the other three quadrants are pretty much useless, because, you know, you're still the number one person that the attackers are looking for. And a lot of times you're bringing in the security breach. So all of a sudden, I've seen this happen so many times, is like big businesses, all of a sudden, they protect all the perimeters of their organization. They put all these safeguards in it. And then all of a sudden, one employee comes in, brings a Trojan horse in, and all of a sudden, all that work they've done is, you know, out the door. And now it's because they didn't really focus on the training part to make people vigilant about, you know, the cybersecurity that they can do. So it's a village. It's, you know, not only, you know, what your IT is doing or your applications are doing, but you also have to, you're a participant in your own cybersecurity. And here's the thing about it. Like, we know we're all tough. We're a small business too, just like everyone else in this industry. You know, we're all affected across, or, you know, this COVID-19 has really hit across all of us. And what we wanted to do is like, come up with a way that we can help our people in to be able to get cybersecurity at a very easy cost and without paying like a huge amount of money. And what we felt like is that that is a way that we can help, our community. And, and then we will be sending out links where you can sign up for cyber security training. And basically you're going to take advantage of like top-notch training at a very low cost and take advantage of what uh, basically what small businesses have. But, what we're giving is a large corporate style training. And we're looking at doing that at $15 a person. So basically we teamed up, we have a great training platform for that. And we felt like, that would be economically advantage, and also it would help you be more aware. And that's pretty much it. And John, I'm going to turn it back to some questions.
Okay. Just had a little bit of trouble unmuting myself. Michael, I had a question.
Sure.
It sounds like really there's like two big things people can do, of course. The antivirus software, of course, and then, people using best practices. But do you have any sense of what like law enforcement, I don't know who that would be, like the FBI, the internet police, whoever it might be, do they look for these people who do these things? And are the penalties, do you know, like, are they really stiff, I hope? Is there anything done like on the front end with like law enforcement? Do you have any sense of that?
They do to a certain extent, but when it comes to us, not so much. And the thing is that the large corporations have the resources to be more vigilant and go after them and partner with the federal government and the FBI. And you got to remember that a lot of these attacks come from overseas. So it extends not just with the FBI is more domestic, but now you have to work with other agencies that are international based to it's a big picture thing. And like you talked about, is all is all virus the same? Not necessarily. So you go out and you pick a virus vendor. You want to there's a lot to understand about virus protection, which is an important piece to your computer. And in a virus, there's a couple of things. One is that, they have, some of them offer, well, you can protect your web browsing. So they can look at, malware through your browsing. They not only what virus, standard protection is about, files on your computer and things that get infected because you clicked on something, all of a sudden it downloaded to your machine. So what we found is that, with virus protection, it comes in a lot of different flavors, and the type of virus you protect or you get is also important. How many times you update the virus protection, it comes out all the time. They're always continuing to update their software. That's important too, but you're part of it. The problem too is that, am I setting up my virus protection to scan? How often is it scanning my laptop or my machine? Because if you're only scanning it like once every week, or, or you're not checking the scan schedules on there, then you're vulnerable again, because the virus protection is also, is only as good as what it does. So just having virus protection on there doesn't necessarily mean that you're fully mitigated from viruses.
Right. Interesting. We have a question from Nina. What can we look for to tell if something is going to be ransomware? And then secondary to that, what virus protection might you recommend? So how do you tell? And then what's the good software?
Okay. So ransomware comes in many different forms. I kind of gave you an example. Ransomware is the kind of thing that they are trying to get into your computer, and most of the time it's going to show up as all of a sudden you click to a website and you get this pop-up with big flashing thing that your computer has been compromised. Okay. Well, let's be honest about it. Anything that says compromise or support that's unsolicited is probably knowing that that's not true. Okay. Because virus protection, a website, so that's how it kind of happens. People click on this and they see this danger sign show up, and all of a sudden they're taking action on it, whether it's picking up a phone to call somebody or they're clicking on a link. Those are the things that happen in most cases when it comes to ransomware, and it's the not knowing part of it. Now, malware comes in a different flavor, because with malware, basically what they're doing is that they're, just like its name means, it's for you click on a file, you click on a website, you bring down an untrusted file that you don't know the source, and all of a sudden you are looking at it as something being dropped in there, like a rootkit or something like that, and all of a sudden they're in on your computer. And again, virus protection takes you to like 90%, because the virus protection's always got to get updated. And usually they're updating, it's not like they're coming out and saying, oh, wait a second, this hacker came up with this exploit, I'm going to put this out ahead of time. It's usually reactionary. Does that make sense? So they find the hole, they fix it, and they put it on your machine. So you have to be the other 10% of vigilance, that through security and understanding. That's why the cyber training is important, because it's a complementary thing with that.
Yes, thank you so much. Here's a good question from Scott. Is ransomware applicable to your phone, and are other viruses, can they threaten phones?
Yes, more so. It never used to be that way, because the way that the operating systems on the phones were locked down, like Android, probably was more susceptible, because it's built on an open source platform, where Apple iOS is very closed loop. Apple controls that. So it's not like you can give you an example, like why Android is probably more prevalent to it. It's because think about it. Google puts it out, Android operating system, people take slices of it. So like different manufacturers run different Android platforms, even your tablets. So they're taking the source code and then they got to lock it down and stuff like that. So to me, I always feel like Android is more susceptible to it. Not that the Apple iOS doesn't have the ability to have vulnerabilities. They do, and they found them, and Apple has to go back, and all of a sudden you're seeing a massive amount of updates coming from your phone. I don't know if you guys, I look at my phone and minimally every day I have like 5 or 6 updates to my applications showing up on my phone through the store. And that just tells you that they're fixing, even the apps that run on top are vulnerable to attacks. Okay, and there is some softwares out there you can load on your phone and supposedly helps you protect you against those things. But again, those are things that you can look at as well, similar to like virus protection that you have on your PC. But then it goes back to that same thing, is that you want to update your apps. So what you do is when you go to your phone and you're downloading an app, when we all have all these crazy apps on there, you also want to look and see if there's any updates for them, because a lot of times they're fixing security as well in there.
Interesting, very interesting. I had another thought too. I know of some local businesses, small, medium businesses here around the area, who employ a certain tactic with their training for their own employees about security things. And one is like secret shopping. They'll send out an email to their employees to see if they click on it. Of course, it's benign and no one gets in trouble, but they use that as a teaching moment. Do you advocate for that type of training?
Absolutely. And the training that we are offering does that for you. So what happens is everybody's going to sign up, they do the training, and you never know, but it actually is going out and testing your knowledge. And it's doing the same exact things that you're being taught. And then what we do is we get a report back and we see who's been good and who's been bad. It's like Santa's Claus list, right? And then we give it back to you and say, all right, you did the training. This is what we saw. And exactly to your point, we tell you exactly whether you were, open to malware or this, and you get all these crazy emails show up, and you never know if it's really coming from us or not.
Sounds like if you're really not sure, just delete, leave it alone, huh?
That is true, and that's what we tell people. But that's the training we're offering. So you're actually getting the high-end training. We're giving it to everyone so that we can be safe and protect our businesses.
Well, it looks like that's all the questions. We really covered it all, I guess. Michael, if you want to put up your contact information again, people might want to reach out. Oh, I think I see one more question popping in here if you had a second.
Yeah, no worries.
It's from Vicky. Should you use more than one virus protection program on your computer?
No, I agree, because and here's the thing about it, right? This is the funniest thing. If you have older machines, it's how, like, you buy a machine. So definitely one virus protection is all you need. But think about it. Like, I have an old machine, and all of a sudden it starts running slower and slower and slower. And you feel like, wow, my machine's really getting slow. A lot of times it's because the machine was built 2 years ago to handle what the tasks were 2 years ago. But as technology increases, virus protection is getting more heavy, handed in regards, because it's now got more it's got to look at and stuff like that. So, part of it is not only are you updating your machine, you also have to take the care and feeding of your actual physical machine too. On top of it is the operating system. There's so many little complexities to it. So one virus protection is what I would suggest, and adding two is not a good idea because it will slow your machine down even further. So
very good. I guess it's best left into the hands of the professionals. So thank you very much. So there's your information. If anyone needs to reach out, we will share this with all our participants. We really appreciate your time, and wish everyone a great day. And we'll see you on the next Chamber webinar. If you want to see what's upcoming, you can go to cape-may-county-chamber.com/events. And we look forward to seeing everyone again on Zoom real soon. So yeah. Michael, Tina, thank you so much. And everyone, have a great day.
You too. Enjoy. Thank you.